The county held a big event last night in the hopes of revitalizing an aging area. World-famous DJ Deadmau5 headlined the show. Originally, 12,000 free tickets were given out, first come, first served. But today we learned only about 4,500 people showed up.
We also followed along with some surrounding businesses. They said they were confused about the whole event. They say they were blocked out of the show's footprint and not given the chance to be a part.
Today, Fox 5 went back there to talk to one of those businesses near the Historical Commercial Center at Maryland and Sahara. And joining the conversation was the county commissioner behind the event.
Yeah, only Fox 5 was there for this interaction and what answers they got. Fox 5's Danny Maston is here to tell us if things were resolved today.
Jacqueline and John, today Clark County Commissioner Tick Seegerblum visited a barber shop called Get a Haircut to Apologize. Now, this gate here was a problem, and you can see it is still up. I was able to help facilitate and get some answers for one small business owner.
Most businesses down this whole New Orleans square were just kind of left out in the dark.
Honestly, just made a mistake, so I apologize profusely.
Left in the dark and blocked in. Some say this tall fence separated concert goers and the businesses at the New Orleans square. That
Basically prevented anyone from even seeing what businesses were over here to begin with, and they couldn't get here.
And that's the irony, is here we're trying to do something to promote commercial center,
right,
and we're actually excluding people from seeing the businesses that are here. Because this New Orleans Square is actually the thriving, lots of great little stores like you, lots of great entrepreneurs.
Seegerblum admitted to getting caught up in making sure the fence was put up so that those who didn't have a ticket couldn't get in.
I don't think anyone ever thought about the businesses here truthfully. So just one of those things where the people are worried about the fence and the stage were trying to worry about their part. We weren't worried about, well, is it going to have unintended consequences as far as hurting local business? And so we just dropped the ball.
Accepting your apology, it's kind of disappointing to hear we just didn't think about the businesses. We just put up the fence. I mean, when the whole point of the entire event was supposed to be to help promote the commercial center and the businesses, and even invite the surrounding communities, which were left out as well.
Seegerblum says going forward, they won't make the same mistake.
We'll be able to work together to improve your business.
Commissioner Seegerblum did say there will be opportunities for a do-over as the county plans to hold more events here at the commercial center, and says that those events could be very similar to First Fridays. Reporting live, I'm Danny Maston, Fox 5 News, Local, Las Vegas.